Cruisers love to brag about how many ports they hit, but most of them are doing it all wrong. They treat every port day like a mission. Get off the ship, spend money, tick the box, repeat. What they don't realize? They're blowing cash, missing real perks, and ignoring the golden rule of cruising. The ship is the destination. While they're out sweating through city tours, smart cruisers are riding water slides without lines and sipping drinks in peace. This isn't just a list, it's a wake-up call. Here are 10 reasons only fools ditch the ship on port days. 1. They assume the ship wouldn't stop somewhere unsafe. This is the classic rookie mistake. A ship docks, and people think that means the port is fine. It must be safe, they say, as if the cruise line runs background checks on every alley in town. But that's not how this works. The port might be scenic, the weather might be warm, and still, the place can have serious issues, the kind that can ruin your trip in an afternoon. Some of these ports used to be safe, others never really were, but cruise marketing painted a pretty picture, and passengers bought in. Now, it's a mixed bag. Areas once known for beaches and cocktails now have growing crime stats. Petty theft, bag snatching, aggressive locals, gang presence near tourist zones. It's happening in more places than people realize. Cozumel, for example, has had sharp spikes in gang violence just blocks from the cruise port. Then there are ports that look clean and polished on the outside, like parts of Naples or even Barcelona. But they're filled with professional pickpockets who can rob you faster than you can order a coffee. The smart move? Look up current travel warnings before stepping off. The UK Foreign Office or the State Department post real-time travel alerts that take 5 seconds to check. And those reports don't sugarcoat anything. If they say there's a risk, there's a risk. What's baffling is how many cruisers ignore this. They jump off the ship just because it feels wrong not to. No plan, no heads up, no clue. That's not being adventurous, it's being careless. The safest ports still deserve caution. The risky ones? Avoid them altogether unless you know exactly what you're doing. Because here's the hard truth. Cruise lines don't stop at ports for your safety. They stopped because the dock was available and the schedule allowed. You're the one responsible for your well-being once your feet hit land. And if you assume the worst can't happen just because there's a welcome sign and some steel drums playing, you're already making the first mistake. 2. They pay to be inconvenienced. This one's almost impressive, the way people willingly sign up for stress and call it an excursion. A lot of these cruise ports are nowhere near the places they advertise. The city you think you're visiting? It's 2 hours away, and the ship isn't waiting if your tour bus breaks down. Look closely at your itinerary. If it says Florence, Livorno, or Rome, Civitavecchia, that's a warning. You're not docking in Florence or Rome. You're arriving at an industrial freight hub miles away, then paying someone to shuttle you into the city, along with 2,000 other sweaty cruisers trying to make the same journey before lunch. And that's the problem. These ports weren't built for tourists. They were built for cargo. You step off the ship and enter a maze of cranes, concrete, and fencing. Then you queue. First for the bus, then for security, then again for the return shuttle back to the port. 2 hours in, and all you've done is commute. By the time you make it to the famous spot, usually crowded, overpriced, and swarming with tour groups, you've spent €80 and a half day of your vacation to stand in a square you could have watched on YouTube. You take 3 photos, maybe buy a bottle of water, then start the journey back because the ship leaves at 5. Meanwhile, back on board, the pool deck is empty. The hot tubs aren't full. There's no wait at the buffet, no line at the coffee shop, no one fighting over loungers. The ship becomes your private resort for the day, but only if you're smart enough to stay. It's not about being lazy, it's about time, comfort, and value. If the only way to get to the actual experience involves hours of commuting, strict time limits, overpriced tickets, and dealing with port traffic, then it's not really an experience anymore. It's a job, and you're paying to do it. Cruisers forget that they already paid for the ship, the food, the entertainment, the comfort. It's all right there, and on port days, it's quiet. You're not rushing, you're not standing in a shuttle line, you're not trying to beat the clock, you're just relaxing. And maybe that's exactly what a vacation is supposed to feel like. If your ship docks somewhere with more cranes than cathedrals, ask yourself, Is it really worth it? Or are you just stepping off because everyone else is? 3. They treat the cruise like a checklist. Cruisers love to say they've been somewhere. They post about Rome, Paris, Florence, even if they only stepped foot there for 2 hours in the middle of a crowded, rushed port day. What really happened? A cramped bus ride, a 15-minute walk behind a flag-waving guide, and a quick sandwich before being herded back onto the bus. That's not visiting a city. That's drive-by tourism. The pressure to tick boxes turns travel into a task list. You're not seeing the world, you're running through it. Some spend hundreds on these excursions, barely remembering anything but the waiting and the walking. And for what? To say they went? The smarter cruisers, the ones who've done this a few times, don't fall into that trap. If they've already been somewhere, they skip it. If the trip to the city is too far, they let it go. If it's a place they really want to see, they come back and do it properly. Not with a group of 50, not with a headset on, but on their own terms, with enough time to breathe. The ship isn't a backup plan, it's not some boring space you escape from. On the right day, it's a better place to be. While everyone else is chasing the same 3 photo ops, you've got the pool, the spa, the open deck, and peace. Vacation isn't about collecting places, it's about knowing when a stop isn't worth your time, and being okay with skipping it. 4. They don't check the numbers. Crowds ruin a lot of things, and cruise ports are no exception. Some people don't think about how many other ships are in port until they step off and get hit by the wave of bodies. Suddenly, the local town feels like a mall on Black Friday. Everything takes longer. Lines for food, lines for bathrooms, shops crammed, tours overbooked. You can't take a photo without 3 strangers in it. You can't hear your guide over the noise. You don't get to wander or explore. You follow a slow-moving crowd and hope you don't get separated. A lot of this can be avoided with 5 minutes of planning. There are sites like cruisetimetables.com that literally tell you how many ships will be docked that day and how big they are. If there are multiple mega ships in port, you already know what's coming. Tens of thousands of people all crammed into the same tiny spaces. That's not something you fight your way through. That's something you avoid. Staying on board during one of these port pileups doesn't mean you're antisocial. It means you're paying attention. And honestly, it's the best call. While others are sweating in line for taxis or waiting an hour for pizza in town, you're stretched out on a half-empty deck, eating food you already paid for, without stress. It's not about skipping every port. It's about recognizing the ones that are going to be a mess, and choosing not to be part of it. 5. They walk off into places that don't want them. No one wants to believe this one, but it's real. Not every port is happy to see you. Some cities are openly tired of cruise ships and the flood of people they bring, and it's getting worse. In places like Barcelona, Palma, and Venice, the protests aren't subtle. Signs telling tourists to go home, stickers on storefronts, crowds confronting cruisers in the streets, restaurants charging more or refusing service. It's not paranoia, it's happening. Still, some cruisers step off anyway. They saw the city in a brochure or on Instagram. It looks too pretty to skip. But then they get there and feel the tension. And it's uncomfortable, because no one wants to be where they're not welcome, especially on vacation. Cruise ships are big business, but they're also an easy target. Locals blame them for pollution, crowding, noise, and rising costs. Whether it's fair or not, that anger exists. And when it's directed at you, the fun drains fast. So why walk into that? If a port is going through protests or backlash against tourism, the best option is often to stay on board. You're not missing anything if the mood is sour and the people don't want you there. This isn't about politics, it's about experience. If stepping off the ship means stepping into conflict or disrespect, then it's not worth it. A peaceful day on deck beats forced sightseeing in a hostile environment any day of the week. Cruisers who don't read the signs, literal or social, walk right into these situations and act surprised when the energy's bad. The ones who pay attention, they stay where they're wanted, or they wait for the right time to return. 6. They waste what they already paid for. Let's be honest, cruises cost a lot, and the extras, they add up fast. People spend hundreds of dollars on drink packages, spa passes, thermal suites, or even private cabanas with curtains and fruit trays. But the moment the ship docks at a port, they rush off. All those paid perks, left behind like they don't matter. Think about it. Why pay for a luxury day just to stand in line for a shuttle bus? What's the point of booking a peaceful retreat if you're not even going to be there to enjoy it? Here's the truth most people miss. The ship is at its calmest and most relaxing when everyone else is off chasing overpriced tours. That ocean view thermal suite you bought, it's finally empty. That unlimited drink package, now you get a seat at the bar without waiting. Those quiet pool loungers, actually quiet for once. Cruisers always say they want to get their money's worth, but they chase that value in all the wrong places. You don't get it by running through every port. You get it by using what you've already paid for. That $400 cabana, it's not doing anything for you while you're walking through another busy market or stuck in traffic, trying to visit a landmark you'll forget next week. You paid for access. You paid for comfort. So why not use it? Enjoy what's already yours. Relax while everyone else fights the crowds. Stretch out in peace. Have another drink without a line. Soak in the view without pushing through tourists. Smart cruisers don't follow the crowd. They take full advantage of the ship when it's quiet. That's the secret to cruising better. Not more ports, just smarter choices. 7. They forget the ship is a floating resort. There's a big mindset shift that veteran cruisers make. They stop thinking of the ship as a taxi and start treating it like a full-blown resort. Because that's exactly what modern cruise ships are. Floating cities designed for leisure, packed with more activities than most land vacations. You've got go-karts racing across the deck, VR arcades, ice skating rinks, themed dining experiences, spa treatments, escape rooms, wine tastings, silent discos, live bands, cooking classes. And that's all before the sun goes down. By night, comedy clubs, Broadway-style shows, casinos, game nights, karaoke bars, movie screenings. It's sensory overload in the best way. But here's the problem. Most people only really explore the ship on sea days, and that's when it's packed. Lines for everything, fully booked shows, no good chairs left by the pool. By the time you get to the bar, your drink already feels late. Port days, though, different story. Half the passengers vanish as soon as the gangway drops, which means the ship becomes your personal playground. That water slide you didn't want to wait 30 minutes for, no line. The sushi class that was full yesterday, open. Even the main pool becomes serene, like it was waiting for you. And that's the trick. If you only use the ship when everyone else is using it, you're not getting the best version of what you paid for. You're just adding yourself to the crowd. But if you flip the script, if you see port days as a chance to relax, explore the ship, and experience everything at your pace, you start to understand what cruising is really about. Smart cruisers don't chase every port like it's a finish line. They know the real magic often happens on board, when it's quiet, when it's empty, when it's yours. 8. They bleed money. Off the ship. Cruisers love the idea of eating local food, sipping drinks by the beach, or picking up a souvenir or two. But that mindset can quietly drain your wallet. Most people don't realize how expensive portside spending really is until it's too late. You step off the ship thinking you'll grab a quick lunch, and suddenly you're staring at a $22 margarita made with cheap tequila. Add a sandwich or a snack, and you're $40 down, just for one meal. Multiply that by several port days and a few family members, and you've just burned through hundreds. And that's just food. Excursions are where people really start bleeding money. A guided tour for a family of 4 can easily cost $300 to $500. Zip lining, scuba diving, cooking classes, ATV rides, all great experiences, but not cheap. And the worst part? Many of these trips are rushed, packed, and barely memorable. You spend more time in vans or waiting around than actually enjoying the activity. Meanwhile, everything on your ship is already paid for. Or it's part of a package you've already purchased. Drinks, meals, pools, shows, kids' clubs. It's all there, and it's yours. Leaving the ship for random overpriced stuff often means you're paying twice. Once for the cruise and once again for the same comforts off the ship. Smart cruisers don't try to make every port day an event. They plan. Maybe they splurge on 1 or 2 meaningful excursions that are worth the cost, like visiting the ruins in Athens or snorkeling in clear water. The rest of the time, they stay on board, relax, and enjoy the value they've already locked in. You don't have to say no to fun, just say yes to smarter choices. 9. They miss out on port day deals. Here's a trick most first-time cruisers never learn. The ship doesn't stop moving just because everyone left. In fact, port days are when some of the best onboard perks get unlocked, and they usually come with a discount. Spa treatments? They're often 20 to 30% cheaper on port days. You can get a massage, facial, or thermal suite access for much less than you'd pay on a sea day. Better yet, there's no waiting list. You won't have to book days in advance or fight for a spot. Some specialty restaurants offer quiet lunches and special menus only on port days. Want to try a steakhouse, sushi spot, or French bistro without paying the full dinner price? Port day lunch hours are your best bet. Even Wi-Fi runs smoother. When half the ship is gone, fewer people are clogging the network. That's the ideal time to upload vacation photos, check in with family, or stream a show without buffering. Onboard competitions are easier to win too. Trivia games, raffles, dance-offs, and contests that usually fill up, they're half empty. If you like prizes or just want a better shot at having your name called, this is your moment. And don't forget about cabin upgrades or special offers that sometimes pop up mid-cruise. The fewer people on board, the higher your chances of being offered a deal or scoring something extra just by asking. Staying on board during port days isn't just relaxing, it's rewarding. You get more space, better service, and you make your cruise dollars stretch further. Why not enjoy what's already in front of you? 10. They burn themselves out. Chasing every port. Nobody wants to say it, but port fatigue is real. By day 4 or 5, you're running on fumes. You've walked all day, waited in line for overpriced excursions, bought junk you didn't need, and now you're dragging yourself off the ship because, what? You feel guilty staying behind? That's the trap. People think they have to make the most of every stop, so they force themselves off the ship no matter how wrecked they feel. Doesn't matter if the port is just another tourist trap. They'll still go, chase some Instagram shot, and come back looking like they just ran a marathon in flip-flops. Smart cruisers don't do that. They know when to skip. Not every port is worth the hassle. Not every day needs to be a new adventure. Sometimes the best move is to stay on board, enjoy the empty pool deck, and breathe. Because while everyone else is sweating through city tours and waiting for tender boats, you could be napping in a quiet cabana or eating lunch without a line. You don't win a prize for hitting every port. There's no trophy for getting off the ship exhausted. Pace yourself, pick your ports, and don't be afraid to do absolutely nothing for a day. That's not being lazy, that's cruising smarter. Not every port is worth your time, and smart cruisers know it. Sure, seeing new places is part of the fun, but rushing off the ship just because it docked? That's rookie thinking. While others are sweating in shuttle lines, overpaying for average food, or stuck in tour groups, you could be stretched out by the pool, drinking hand, using the perks you already paid for. The ship doesn't become boring just because it's parked. It becomes quiet, peaceful. Cruising isn't about checking boxes or collecting "I've been there" selfies. It's about knowing when to explore and when to lean back and do absolutely nothing. So, skip the crowd, use the spa, watch a movie, take a nap. Enjoy your floating resort while it's empty. That's not missing out. That's cruising smart.